While it's far more common for an anime villain to cast aside their evil ways and move to the side of angels, there are still quite a few examples of anime heroes turning to the dark side, which is why we decided to take a look through all of these interesting instances of anime turncoats. From Full Metal Alchemist to Attack on Titan, let's take a look at some anime heroes who turned into villains and their reasons for doing so. Vegeta is best known and perhaps most admired for his incredible character arc. He went from a ruthless villain to a kind of hero of Earth with a family, and by the time of the Buu Saga, he was a far cry from the villain status he had in his first appearance. Unfortunately, there was an insecurity that was growing within him. As he grew to love his family, he also feared it was making him weak. It was because of this fear that Vegeta fell victim to the evil wizard Babidi's manipulation and turned into Majin Vegeta. As Majin Vegeta, he fell back into his old ruthless ways, killing innocent people at the World Martial Arts Tournament without a second thought. Of course, he realized what he was doing and eventually made up for his weakness by sacrificing himself, but the point still stands: that Vegeta went from a villain to a hero, and back to a villain when he became Majin Vegeta. In the first episode of Attack on Titan, the safety of the walls is immediately compromised by a colossal Titan and an armored Titan, whose actions caused other Titans to take over the outer ring of the last bastion of humankind. These unique Titans changed everything. They were the ultimate chaotic force that had set in motion the events of the series. But were they truly chaotic, or were they intelligent? As the anime progresses, we learn that people can turn into Titans, even those who fight for humanity. One of the biggest twists in the series came when Bertold and Reiner were revealed to be the very Titans that set off the events of the series, the ones that plunged humanity into even more chaos than before. This was devastating for a number of reasons. It shook up the story, it showed that Titans were hiding among humans, and it showed that there may be more evil Titans amongst the humans. If that's not a devastating example of anime heroes turning bad, we don't know what is. Next up, we have one of the most infamous examples of an anime hero going rogue, Sasuke Uchiha from Naruto. Sasuke is a, shall we say, complicated character. Regardless, Sasuke's first shift from good guy to villain was and still is a powerful moment that stands as one of the best examples of a hero turning bad in all of anime. Sasuke was always a troubled kid, someone who was a little distant and cold, so it's not like it was a massive surprise that he eventually fell to the darkness. But that didn't make it any less impactful. It was still meaningful in the story, which is why it's one of the best examples of a hero going rogue. While he was conflicted by his friendship with Naruto and Sakura, Sasuke eventually left the Hidden Leaf Village behind in order to seek the power that Orochimaru could provide him. Power that he wished to gain to get revenge on his brother Itachi for killing the entire Uchiha clan. So he left his home behind for a more villainous path. In Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, there's not a whole lot of side switching. The protagonists and antagonists are made pretty clear right up front and remain consistent throughout, save for a few characters. In terms of a hero turning into a villain, Ling is pretty much the only example, as halfway through the series he became a homunculus. You see, Ling is one of the many heirs to the throne of the Shingi's empire, and in order to claim the throne for himself, he must return to Shing with the key to immortality. So, when presented with the opportunity to become an immortal homunculus, he turned into the new Greed, after the original was destroyed by Father. Greed and Ling eventually developed something of a symbiotic relationship, leading him to give his life for Ling in the end, resulting in Ling losing his homunculus powers. So, again, Ling wasn't a total turncoat, but a significant example nonetheless. Even someone with the best intentions can go down a dark path, and Light Yagami of Death Note is perhaps the best example of this. While he wasn't exactly a hero in his high school days, it's fair to say that Light didn't seek out a dark path in life. But that all changed when he came upon the Death Note. This mysterious notebook gave him the power to kill whoever he wanted by writing their name in it. With this power, Light's inner darkness came out, and his desire to cleanse the world could be satisfied. As soon as he accepted the name given to his actions, Kira, Light's descent into darkness, madness, and villainy was solidified, and he could no longer be saved as he started killing criminals and anyone who got close to finding out it was him behind the mysterious deaths. Again, he wasn't exactly a hero to begin with, but seeing a good-natured kid turn into a dark villain is as devastating as it is interesting. Next up, we have a character from Full Metal Panic, a series that follows Sosuke Sagara, a teenager raised as a soldier for his entire life, as he attempts to blend in with the Japanese high school in order to protect Kaname Chidori from the evil organizations that want the hidden knowledge within her. Oh, and there are also giant robots. Sounds pretty cool, right? That's because it is, standing as one of the most interesting anime series out there. In fact, one of the reasons why it's so interesting is because of all the betrayal. The main two military organizations are mercenary forces after all, so the soldiers are likely to go with whichever pays the higher price. While this might not have been Mithril's Lieutenant Commander Andrew Callanan's reason for stabbing the organization in the back, it didn't make his betrayal any less interesting or devastating. In fact, it was likely the most devastating to Sosuke, whom Callanan was a father figure to. Sosuke watched the man who he sought wisdom and guidance from at a young age leave Mithril to work for the enemy, Amalgam, marking one of the craziest instances of a hero turning into a villain in all of anime. Panty and Stocking doesn't initially present itself as a series that would have a whole lot of twists and turns and dramatic, interesting storytelling. It's not a bad series by any means, it just sets itself up as a comedy with some baseline story elements to maintain a premise. Because of this, the final few episodes come as a delightful surprise since they present a powerful narrative as well as some stellar action. Then, after the credits of the final episode roll, the rug gets pulled out from under us once again, as it's revealed that Stocking was a bad guy this whole time. Wait, what? Stocking spent all that time helping her sister get back into heaven and she's actually a villain? We know, it's pretty insane. And they showed it in an even crazier way since Stocking cut her sister up into cubes before running off to do her evil deeds, leaving Brief to clean up the mess. Much like Ling's descent into becoming a homunculus, Mellie Otis didn't really become evil, he more fell into a monstrous force within him. In the case of the Seven Deadly Sins protagonist, he had a long, complicated story leading up to his eventual evil transformation. In fact, it's so complicated that there's no way we could summarize it in a little over a minute. So instead of going into all the details, we'll just say that as a member of the demon race, Mellie Otis always seemed to be on the edge of going completely rogue. And once his emotions were stripped from his soul, he ended the Seven Deadly Sins and committed to his demon heritage. The most devastating part about this is that Mellie Otis feared it would happen. He was scared that his literal inner demon would take over, and when it did, it was deep, powerful, and truly tragic. Dead Man Wonderland has quite an interesting premise. It follows Ganta Igarashi, a kid who was given life in prison after he was falsely accused of killing all of his classmates. But he's not just sentenced to any prison. He was sent to Dead Man Wonderland, a prison theme park hybrid where the inmates compete against each other in blood sports, both figurative and literal since the main form of combat is controlling blood like weapons and projectiles. It's pretty messed up, like on a lot of levels, but what was even more messed up was the fact that Shiro, the seemingly kind girl who Ganta met while in prison, turned out to be the mysterious figure that actually killed his classmates. Yes, the girl who he had befriended and seemed so innocent was actually the monster that put Ganta in prison for life. A reveal that showed Shiro wasn't good, and in fact a villain. Of course, this was because Shiro has a second personality known as the Wretched Egg for some reason, that took over her body from time to time, the death of Ganta's classmates being one of them. So it's not really Shiro's fault, but she still switches between hero and villain. Like all the villains in Naruto, the creepy snake man person or whatever he is, Orochimaru is complicated and layered. While he was introduced as a force of pure evil, like a ninja snake version of the Joker, we eventually learned that he was once a member of the Leaf Village Shinobi. In fact, he was straight up considered a prodigy. Additionally, Orochimaru was one of the 3 legendary shinobi alongside Jiraiya and Tsunade, who helped fight in the Second Shinobi War. So how did such a great hero turn to the dark side? The answer is a combination of a rough upbringing, what with his parents being dead and all, as well as a thirst for knowledge, and as it usually is with science-inclined characters with little to no moral compass, they eventually want to seek immortality, and do so by piling up as many bodies as necessary. There are some details we're skipping over, but the point is that Orochimaru is still one of the most prominent examples of a former anime hero becoming a straight-up villain. Devilman Crybaby is an interesting series. It's pretty out there in terms of psychedelic and raunchy, gory visuals, but it's also full of some interesting imagery and themes. It's hard to sum it up, but it's essentially the story of Akira and Ryo. two best friends whose fates collide after so many years apart when Akira becomes Devilman, a demon-possessed version of himself with the ability to turn into a super strong devil form. Eventually, we learn that Ryo is actually Satan himself, which we're pretty sure is the most evil you could literally get. Devilman Crybaby is a bonkers series, especially when it comes to the ending, which finds Ryo setting in motion and assisting in the destruction of humanity and Earth, which are, again, probably the most evil things you could possibly do. Seriously, we can't get over this concept, folks. Here's a guy who seemed relatively nice, perhaps not a hero, but nice, and suddenly turned out to be Satan. Without a doubt, this is the craziest example of a hero turning into a villain in all of anime. Lelouch from Code Geass is a lot like Light Yagami. Both characters didn't start out intending to be villains, but found that the only way they could shape the world in their image was to get a little nuts. For Light, it was wanting to kill criminals, and for Lelouch, he wanted to change and fix the world that the Britannian Empire had corrupted. In order to do so, Lelouch took up the identity of Zero, the masked terrorist who would take down and eventually take over the Britannian Empire. Things get pretty complicated in the overall story, but one thing remains constant and compelling: Lelouch's descent into his role as Zero. He's just a high schooler at this point, yet he sparked an entire rebellion with his actions. While they were for a relatively just cause, there's no denying that Lelouch's character arc is that of a villain, one whose misguided attempts to better the world led him to become a monster that he never thought he was capable of being. Suffice it to say, Lelouch's transformation into Zero ended up being one of the most devastating character arcs in anime, due in no small part to it focusing on a boy with heroic intentions turning into a villain. Like Sasuke after him and Orochimaru before him, Itachi Uchiha was once a ninja with great potential and great aspirations. In fact, Itachi was arguably one of the best and brightest of the Hidden Leaf Village, sitting in on village meetings only a year after graduating from his training. Furthermore, he reached the Chunin level faster than anyone in his class and joined the Anbu at only 11 years old. But as it always tends to be with the characters with tons of potential and great ability, they turn evil somewhere down the line. Look, we like Naruto and all, but Itachi's moral alignment and its ever-changing state are one of the lesser parts of the series. After learning that the Uchiha clan was planning a coup against the village, Itachi played a part in the plan to kill them off, ending his parents' lives by his own hand. But he was still remorseful for his actions, painting himself as the villain of his younger brother Sasuke's story so that he could have the motivation to get strong enough to punish him for his crimes. Itachi went from a beloved hero of the Leaf Village to an enemy of the shinobi. Madoka Magica is a subversive take on the magical girls genre. Instead of it being about a team of girls who fulfill their destinies as magical fighters of evil, it turns out to be about something much, much darker. This all centers around Kyubey, the cute, cuddly, magical animal critter that grants the girls their power. Kyubey is a play and twist on the trope of the animal companion in magical girl anime, like Luna in Sailor Moon, but, evil. What makes us say this? Because halfway through, it's revealed that Kyubey harvests souls. Yeah, you heard that right. This adorable little creature actually turned the girls of the series into magical girls so it could harvest their souls and energy. It wasn't out to help the world by giving it magical guardians, it was just using that narrative to get what it wanted. It makes the series interesting, but it was also so intense and devastating to learn that Kyubey wasn't the cute little magical animal we thought he was. Sure, it's more of a case of an evil character pretending to be good rather than revealing their true nature, but we're still gonna count Kyubey's betrayal as one of the most devastating examples of an anime hero turning into a villain. Last and certainly not least, we have what is probably the most well-known instance of an anime hero going rogue and revealing themselves to be a straight-up baddie: Sosuke Aizen of Bleach. Seriously, even if you dropped Bleach after a certain point, we're pretty sure you made it to this part in the series, and boy oh boy was it crazy when all that went down. Leading up to Aizen's reveal, it seemed like the Soul Reaper captain was just a quiet guy, one who didn't have anything significant going on about him. Then, all of a sudden, it seems like he was assassinated, only for him to show up alive and ready to reveal his evil alignment. It turns out that his Zanpakuto's power was the ability of perfect hypnosis, a power that let him fool Soul Society for so long. After this, Aizen became the main antagonist of the series, coming back time and time again with new and more dangerous forces each time. While the series eventually got boring because of this, you can't deny that Aizen was a great villain for a good amount of time, standing as a great example of an anime hero turning into a villain. So there you have it, some anime heroes who turn to the dark side. Did we leave any of your favorites out? Are any of these characters better as villains? Let us know what you think down in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more anime videos. Thanks for watching.